We also watched AEW Dynamite, also October 28th, 2020. So Dasha is interviewing MJF and Wardlow. Wardlow is about to compete in the tournament, World Championship Eliminator Tournament, whatever they're calling it. And she asks him, how do you feel about the possibility of becoming AEW champion? And then before he can answer, MJF cuts him off and says, a reminder, Wardlow does not work for AEW. Wardlow works for me. And as part of our contract, if he wins this tournament and then defeats either Jon Moxley or Eddie Kingston, I will then be the world champion as part of our contract. Isn't that right, Wardlow? And Wardlow reluctantly agrees. When the next match, the announcers start talking about this and saying, yeah, that's bullshit. That may be what his contract says. That's not what Tony Khan says.
I do like, by the way, the idea that Wardlow is not under contract to AEW. But they're putting him in this tournament where conceivably he could win their world title. What happens if he wins and decides he wants to go to WWE?
I'm not a lawyer, but if he has a contract with MJF, and if MJF has a contract with AEW, then perhaps Wardlow, by going to AEW, will be breaching his contract with MJF.
Well, yeah, but I mean, still, that's a big risk for Tony Khan. Put a guy not under a contract in your world title tournament?
That is strange.
But yes, they shot that down immediately.
Yes.
This is not Andre the Giant and Ted DiBiase. No. You cannot sell that belt.
No. So Sammy Guevara comes in to confront MJF, says, we don't want you in the inner circle. And MJF says, look, I saw your attack on Matt Hardy last week. That was great. But I also saw the video package you did, and I want to give you a tip on promos. Don't. And so, of course,
sounds like Richie Magnet.
Yeah, that's kind of. Whatever you're doing with your arm, stop it. So Sammy gets hot, and MJF is like, oh, the guy who looks like he sells Adderall to high school kids is mad at me. Sammy says he's just thinking about what he's going to do. And then Wardlow's music hits, and they go out for the match. So this show wasn't live. They did a lot of crowd sweetening for the matches, but they also did a lot of crowd sweetening for this promo. It was way too much. It was way over the top. It was like a sitcom laugh track. The boos for MJF were way too loud, and it was goofy.
I was watching on YouTube TV, and MJF said, what are you going to do about it? And all of a sudden, I had like a 5-minute, not a 5-minute, but like 5-second random ad.
Yes.
Did you get that too?
No, but I've had it when watching other things on YouTube.
Okay, it was weird. No, it's YouTube TV. Like, I don't normally ever get an ad. It was like a glitch. So I never heard what Sammy said, but...
Oh, you had an ad instead of what happened?
Yeah. It just went right over for like 5 seconds, like an ad for some pill or something came on the screen. And then 5 seconds later, it was gone.
No, I've seen a 5-second ad, but then when the ad's over, it picks up right where I left off. So I don't miss anything. I just have to watch it.
But it was a glitch, Vinny. It wasn't even a full ad. It was like...
I understand.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just saying it's weird. Regardless.
I don't want these glitches on my show, goddammit.
No, not at all. Wardlow versus Hangman Page in the World Title Tournament.
You know what this was like? This was like Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez. Like, I didn't think this was going to be bad, but I saw the Hangman match last week with Colt Cabana, which was fine, but it was nothing special. And here's Wardlow. And of course, Cabana's way more experienced than Wardlow.
Yes.
I thought, well, it's probably going to be good. It's, Wardlow had a good match with the Jungle Boy. It'll be a big guy, little guy match. Everything will be fine. These fucking dudes went in there and they tore it up. And part of it was the crowd sweetening. I mean, that every time they do a taped show, the crowd, it just makes the show so much better what they do with the crowd. But just the work, like they gave Wardlow so much stuff and he beat up the Hangman and Hangman never gave up and he had to hit multiple buckshots to finally beat Wardlow. He pins the guy clean, but it was a battle, and Wardlow came out of it looking great, and Hangman came out of it looking great. I thought this was awesome.
Wardlow hit the F10, but Page rolled outside, and that threw Wardlow off his game, and they were even talking about how the rookie doesn't know how to react. He's going to the top rope now instead of throwing the guy back in, and that led to a big, giant avalanche. It was a long, scary battle on top of that top rope, and Page finally hits the Avalanche SOS, and then I think right after that did the spot. He actually hit the buckshot, but Wardlow didn't go down, so he just hit another one and pinned him, which was great. Yes, a very, very fun opener. Tonight on AEW Dynamite, Kenny Omega versus Penta El Zero M, Serena D versus Layla Hirsch, Shawn Spears is in action, Cody versus Orange Cassidy for the TNT title in a lumberjack match. A town hall meeting to decide if MJF can join the Inner Circle. And Eddie Kingston will take on Matt Sydal. John Moxley promo. He's training in a dojo somewhere, apparently. It says he has been all business in AEW, but November 7th is personal. He's not just defending the title, he's going to weaponize it. No more excuses, Eddie Kingston. No more whining. You're going to say I quit. You're going to have to live with yourself. I crush windpipes, I crush skulls, and I crush egos. Protect your neck, Eddie.
I thought this promo was awesome, and I love that he is, in fact, training at some dojo somewhere, and they literally start recording right after he, I guess, got off the mat with somebody.
Yeah.
Because he's gasping for air at the beginning, but by the end, he's fine. So there's just something about it that felt so real.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was fake breathing hard the whole time, or like he literally had just got done doing some set of something.
Yeah.
And they turn the camera on, and he starts out of breath, and he ends with all of his breath back. I thought it was great. It was a little thing that maybe no one else noticed, but I noticed it, and I loved it.
John Moxley is not, for the time being, a pro cage fighter, but he trains like one, and so he cut a promo like a guy who trains like a cage fighter. And it wasn't taking The Miz down to the dojo and saying, put on this gi costume and try to cut a promo like you're a fighter. It was Moxley being himself, being awesome.
No, it also indicates, by the way, that he is very serious about his training, because he's not going to finish the set and rest for a while and have the dude set up the camera and start to cool off and then do his promo. It's like, dude, if you want to interview me, like, I'm doing a round with this guy, and I got 2 minutes, and I'm doing a round with the next guy.
Exactly.
So as soon as I step off that fucking mat, you turn the camera on, and they do, and he does his thing, and he's back.
Exactly, yes. So Eddie gets to do a promo in the ring. They again let us know that the Bunny had maxed out QT Marshall's credit cards, then dumped him to go back with Butcher and Blade.
You know what I got to say about this storyline? A lot of people are down on it because, like, it went nowhere, and they just reset everything.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? They reset everything.
They gave it an ending.
They said that she maxed out all of his credit cards and she went back to her husband.
Yes.
And you know what? Yeah, it sucks. I have no idea why the Bunny left and went with QT Marshall. I mean, it sounds like they must have had some sort of plan that for whatever reason they decided not to do, or whatever. Whatever they were planning, I don't think this was it. But when they decided to move her back, they at least did something.
They said 2 sentences, and it makes sense.
Fine.
They didn't just pretend it never happened, and that she had been with Butcher and Blade for the past
or just
3 months.
Undo it, or have Billy and Peyton break up, and then they fight, and then the next week they have a match on Main Event, and then the next week they're together.
Yes,
and then the next week they're not together at all.
It was just done.
Fuck me.
Yes. So Eddie's out here calling out the world champion for not being there, bullying a cameraman who tried to get in the ring, and Eddie wouldn't let him because he hasn't trained, he hasn't earned it. And since John Moxley is not here, he says, I'll face the guy who tried to steal my thunder in the Casino Battle Royal. So it's Eddie Kingston versus Matt Sydal. And I like Eddie Kingston a lot. I think Eddie Kingston is a fantastic promo. I think Eddie Kingston is a really, really, really good wrestler. But I'm watching these two in the ring and thinking one of these guys is challenging for a world title in 10 days, and somehow it's not Matt Sydal. He just looks so much more like a star than Eddie Kingston does. That's just how it is. The match is fun. They go back and forth the whole time. And that's another thing, by the way. At least Eddie got a win since this whole...
Eddie Kingston looks exactly like Eddie Kingston should look, Vinny. How dare you? He's a bad dude.
I'm sure he is.
He doesn't need to go to the fucking gym every day. He's busy being a bad man.
So, he did get a win.
Billy the Kid lifting weights? I haven't.
Billy the Kid?
Never heard a report of Billy the Kid lifting fucking weights.
The outlaw from the Old
Yes,
West?
he was busy being an outlaw. He wasn't going to the fucking YMCA.
Also, there were no weights.
There were no weights?
When were dumbbells invented? I
You don't have to lift a goddamn dumbbell, Vinny. You lift a baby calf. You carry it every day. It grows to the size of a cow, and you're really fucking strong.
Brian, that's Hercules.
It doesn't matter who it is. Billy the Kid could have lifted a fucking horse or whatever.
He could have, actually. That's why he had guns.
That's the point, Vinny. He didn't need to go to the Y. He had guns.
All right.
Eddie Kingston doesn't need to go to fucking 24-hour fitness. He's busy beating ass.
So, he did get a win here, which is good because he hadn't actually beat anyone or earned this title shot or beat anyone since it was announced. But again, it's one of those things where if you're going to have the guy get a win, just have him get a win. They go back and forth the whole time. Eddie hits the back fist out of nowhere and taps him out with a bulldog choke. It was a decisive win by the end, but it was a 50-50 match until then. So he puts Sydal away with a bulldog choke, which is Moxley's own hold, and then his crew gets in the ring with a mic, and they make Sydal say he quits, and so Eddie's very focused going into this championship match.
I thought Eddie was awesome in this segment. I always think he's awesome.
At Full Gear, they do the whole card later, but for right now it's Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston, as well as FTR versus the Young Bucks, which brings us to. So there's a split screen interview going on where in one window there's FTR and Tully Blanchard. The other window is Excalibur and the Young Bucks. And it's supposed to be just a back and forth interview segment. Is it just me or was this atrocious?
I would not say atrocious. I would not say that it was good.
So, first, the FTR takes a shot about Excalibur being a longtime friend of the Bucks. That's why he's got a job, which is probably true. He's good. He's really good at his job, but it helps to know people who are starting wrestling companies. So, he starts asking Matt about his ankle. And Matt's like, oh, my ankle's fine, totally fine. Nick is mumbling over him. Oh, you're hurt. Can't play with your kids. Matt blows him off. I promise I'll be at Full Gear. And they ask FTR why they jeopardize this dream match, and they say, well, we don't care about a dream match. We care about being champions and cementing the legacy as the best tag team in the world. Excalibur says, Young Bucks, you've been... This is not his exact words, but he says, you've kind of been assholes to everyone lately. Was this comeuppance to some degree? And Matt just starts stumbling and saying and and we're regular people, and sometimes, regular people do bad things. I don't regret it. We were missing this. We were missing some kind of edge, and these pricks started screwing with our livelihood, manipulating our friends, and I don't like that I feel this way, but eventually the FTR gets bored. They walk out, and so they're done. They're gone, and Excalibur then starts to ask about the crazy stipulation that Matt has in mind, and Nick says, well, I'm not into it, but Matt thought of it, so okay, and Matt says, well, I've basically decided if we don't win the tag belts, we'll never challenge for them ever again. And Excalibur says, wow, really? This takes it gone even higher. And it goes away. I thought, you didn't shoot this again? You let this go on TV? I thought this was really, 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 really bad.
I could not say that it was atrocious, but this whole... this felt like to me? This felt like a promo, mostly by Matt, who knew exactly what he wanted all of this to be, and it just wasn't going the way that he envisioned it was going to be.
I'd like to think this is not how he envisioned it.
I feel like I know what they're trying to do, and he pretty much explained it here, which is they're baby faces. They've had a rough road all year. They keep being called the greatest tag team of all time, but they can never win the belts. They can never win the big one. And their best friend turned on them. And so I believe the storyline was supposed to be that they kind of snapped. And they were really upset. They were really frustrated. And they were so pissed off that they were doing things that were out of character. But it was supposed to just be that they were trying to get that edge so that they could go out there and finally win the big one. I think that's what the storyline was supposed to be. But for whatever reason, whether it's fans not there to react the way they want, or Nick wasn't there for a few weeks and they had to do the weird thing with the phantom foot, and they're not coming off as baby faces, they're coming off as pure heels.
They're
and
coming
now
off
it's 2 weeks away, and it just came off as like Matt desperately trying to explain his whole vision behind all of this in like 30 seconds, and then adding the stipulation, which, dude, if this came off the way they wanted, where they're baby faces and they keep getting fucked, and finally they're just like, we're not taking any more shit, and we're going to put our future championship our team on the line. We'll never be champions again if we don't win. If you write it down on paper, it works. But this has not worked for weeks now.
No.
Months maybe. And so it kind of felt like a guy who was really frustrated with the way everything ended up. But like they've got a direction, they've got a date, and like it's in 2 weeks, and that's what happened there. I actually thought Nick was really good because Nick is the brother who they're a team. His brother's clearly a madman. His brother's clearly hurt. Nick's like, dude, you can't even play with your kids. Matt's ranting and raving that he's fine. Nick's not even having it. He's irritated by this whole fucking thing. He's irritated by his brother's stipulation. He's irritated by his brother claiming he's okay.
But he's still going along with it.
Well, he's his fucking brother. What's he going to do? Walk out on the team? They got a tag team match.
You say, no, I refuse the stipulation.
Well, anyway, dude, I can't say it was horrible because I can at least feel like I know what they wanted to do, but this whole thing has not worked out.
No, it has not. That's
now,
nice.
the good news is, I'm hoping that this ends up like Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez, where like I was so fucking sick of the build and I was irritated. I didn't know why Rhea was involved. I was pissed off, and then they go in there and they tear the house down. If the Young Bucks go in there with FTR on Saturday and they have one of the best tag team matches of the last few years,
which they should,
and they win the belts, and 1,000 people there go crazy, we move on with our lives, this will be something that we remember wasn't great, but we've all moved on. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's my thoughts.
So it is time for the town hall. Now, I don't know what I expected this to be, but it certainly was not what we got. I guess they did a town hall meeting, so I don't know why I was expecting something different, but it's Tony and Dasha Gonzalez, Tony Schiavone and Dasha Gonzalez hosting. They're the main central table. They bring out the inner circle, except for Jake Hager, who was preparing for his fight, which I guess was the same night in real life, wasn't it? So, and they bring out
tonight.
It was tonight, okay.
He won a split decision, everybody. He is still undefeated in MMA.
Congratulations, Jake. So they bring out MJF and Wardlow, and what I thought was going to happen was Tony would like facilitate a conversation between these two sides, like a negotiation or debate. But
I thought it would be the Inner Circle and MJF, and that's it.
But that is not what a town hall is, to their credit. A town hall is where the people ask questions of candidates. So the people in this case started with a dinosaur, Luchasaurus, who again reminds us all he has a master's degree. And his question for MJF is, how can you contribute to the financial compensation and prosperity of the Inner Circle? And right away, from the get-go, I love that all these acts, baby faces, heels, singles, tag, men, women, they all do have... They ask questions like they had stake in the game of whether or not MJF joins this crew. What the hell does Luchasaurus care if MJF's in this Inner Circle? I don't know, but he acted like he did. It was on his mind.
Oh, by the way, Vinny...
Yes.
Even producer Jared here has noted, lifting weights was invented in Egyptian and Greek times. There were dumbbells in the West in America during the Billy the Kid era.
All right. Thank you, producer Jared. I apologize to all the cowboy bodybuilders and Billy the Kid.
I can't believe you gave us false information about weightlifting. Vince.
Well, as it turns out, Brian, it's a subject I know very little about.
By the way, turn the goddamn light on. I was going to do this for AEW anyway. Halloween Havoc is over.
It's true.
All right.
Oh, God. Okay.
Now we're all blinded.
Yes.
Everyone watching on their iPad in their bed just fucking went blind.
I've been sitting in the dark for 40 minutes. Okay. So Luchasaurus's question is, how can you contribute to the financial compensation and prosperity of the Inner Circle? So MJF presents a chart. And part of the joke is MJF or his crew or his PowerPoint toadies or whatever, they don't know how charts work. Because there's one chart showing the Inner Circle's financial status present day, and then one showing it's like pre-MJF and post-MJF, which makes sense, but they're overlapping. So they're like there's two alternate timelines going on at the same time now. But the point is, without MJF, they're doing okay. There's some ups and downs, peaks and valleys. And with the MJF, it's like Cameron Grimes going to the moon, straight up. And people boo, and MJF shouts at them, "It's math." So Britt Baker has a question.
Sounds like we had the same math teacher.
May have, actually. Rebel tries to ask the question, but it gets all schoolgirly with Chris Jericho and his smile and can't get past that. So Britt Baker asks the question, points out MJF has a terrible track record of friendships in AEW. And Jericho says, that's a very good point. I'm aware of MJF's track record, but I'm also aware that I'm not a dipshit like Cody. And I don't know what went on. It probably just went long, but Jericho's answer was heavily edited. So Jericho threatens that if MJF does turn his back on the Inner Circle like he has so many friends in the past, they'll kick his teeth down his throat. MJF promises he would never turn on them, points out what they can do together, which is what all of us like to do, make money, win championships. We'll get a whole lot of green and a whole lot of gold. Peter Avalon's question is, can I join the Inner Circle? Everyone laughs at him, tells him to get out of there. The next question is from Eric B. of Cody, Wyoming. And because I'm watching AEW, somehow I heard this as Cody from Wyoming. And I was expecting Cody Rhodes to show up, but no, it's Eric Bischoff. And he has 3 questions. Mr. Friedman, what can you do for the Inner Circle? And Friedman has a one-word, powerful answer, as he puts it, friendship. And then Merrick asks, well, what can they do for you? And Maxwell says, well, I am the total package, but I still have room to improve. I may not be the best team player. Once I join these great men, I can learn how to be. Bischoff's third question, he points out that he's known Jericho for a long time, and Jericho has been a prima donna. Jericho freaks out. Shivani tells Jericho to shut up. Bischoff implies MJF is also a prima donna. What is the guarantee the two of you don't end up just killing each other? MJF starts to rant about what an unfair question this is, but Jericho says it's a good question. How do we know you won't stab us in the back? And now MJF is tired of this whole dog and pony show. He's pissed off. For weeks, he says, I've done everything right. I have given you presents. I have given you great TV. I have given you friendship. Last week, I gave you the best segment of your career. What else did I do to join the Inner Circle? What haven't I done? And Jericho says, you haven't beat me, but I'm going to give you a chance. At Full Gear, it's MJF versus Chris Jericho one-on-one. If you win, I'll allow you in the Inner Circle. Sammy Guevara and Ortiz are not happy when Chris breaks this news. MJF warns Jericho this is the opportunity of his life. He will do anything he has to do to win. Ortiz cuts him off, says, you got no shot to get in with us. Next week, it's me and Sammy versus you and Wardlow. We don't want you in the group. Jericho's on the fence. Santana's on the fence. But we're going to take you on. You'd best believe you're not going to make it to this pay-per-view. I wrote a lot about this one too, obviously. But this is very good. It was very fun. Jericho was awesome. MJF was awesome. Bischoff was awesome. Ortiz was awesome. It all makes sense. The individuals of the Inner Circle are individuals. They're not a hive mind. Some guys like MJF and what he can do. Some guys don't trust him, don't want him in there. And they're not. They're just going to settle it, work it all out. So this is very, very good.
I thought it was a little wacky at the beginning, bordering on being too wacky. I mean, you've got a town hall meeting, and it's two heels deciding if they're going to join forces so that they can ruin the company or whatever, or just destroy everybody. And like the first question's from a babyface who's asking about the financial. I was like, what the fuck's going on here? It was a little too wacky, but by the end, I thought this was fantastic. My favorite thing, which actually was during the wacky part, was when Bischoff starts talking about how, well, you know, Chris Jericho can be a prima donna. Jericho's outraged. Whoa, wait a second. I'm a prima donna? And Tony Schiavone goes, it's Eric Bischoff's time to speak. And Jericho says, well, hold on a second. He called me a prima donna. If you guys watched any of the debates, which based on the numbers, I'm sure most all of you did, these fuckers talking all over each other. Your time is up, and they just keep going for another hour. All of America, probably all of the world, was just waiting for one of these moderators to do what Tony Schiavone did, which was say, would you shut up? Fucking place went crazy when Tony screamed that. I died. So anyway, at the end, when they finally did all of their back and forth and announcing the match, and you know, at the end of the day, I mean, we saw last week that, judging from the dance number, I mean, MJF wants to be in the Inner Circle and Jericho wants him in the Inner Circle, but at the end of the day, they're both egomaniacs. And Jericho notes, you've never beaten me. And so they're going to have the match. And they're going to have a match, by the way, And the Inner Circle is going to be out there, and some of them do not want MJF in the match. They don't want him in the Inner Circle. So there's so many ways that this could go. The one way I don't think it's going to go is the whole Inner Circle screws Jericho at the pay-per-view, and MJF is in and Jericho's out. I just feel like it's way too early for that. But pretty much anything else, I think, is fair game. So we'll see how it goes.
We have clips of Will Hobbs winning on Dark and then saving Darby Allin from Team Taz, but Team Taz still knows how dangerous and bad Will Hobbs is. They still want an answer if he will join their team. Orange Cassidy versus Cody in a lumberjack match.
Okay, I got to say something here, because I said something about this last night, and it's pretty much a correction. So, and we got 15 minutes, so I'll make it quick.
Yeah, we're on it. Yeah.
So last week, they had this segment with the Dark Order, and John Silver vows that he will run in and Brody Lee and the Dark Order, and they're going to interfere in this match. So then, shortly thereafter, they go to the announcers, and the announcers say, it's going to be a lumberjack match to make sure that there's no interference. So long story short, if you watch this match, the fucking Dark Order, they're lumberjacks, and in fact, they interfere in the end to lead to the finish. I was so gobsmacked. This was like straight out of Raw. You announce a lumberjack match so that a group can't run in, but then they're lumberjacks.
Yeah.
What the fuck? So, as somebody pointed out to me, what actually happened last week was when Cody arrived, he announced that there was going to be a special stipulation. Then they go to John Silver, he makes his threat, and the announcers later talk about the lumberjack match. But it appears that in reality, it was always going to be a lumberjack match in storyline. So when John Silver threatened to run in, the announcers then making it a lumberjack match, that had nothing to do with John Silver. But the way that the show was put together, it sounded like it was a reaction to John Silver. Like, they were always going to be in the lumberjack match.
Yes.
But still, the idea that you have a lumberjack match to prevent somebody from running in, and they run in anyway, and it leads to the finish, not a fan. Now, the match itself was good. What they did was good, but I was just gobsmacked by that.
It was good. There was a lot going on. They did a lot with the lumberjacks. The Dark Order interfered. Trent just hauled off and punched Cody at one point, and QT Marshall standing next to him doesn't do anything. There was a great spot where they went to commercial. First, the Orange is on the apron, and he gets knocked off the apron, but the best friends catch him and very gently push him back. And then Cody's in the apron, he gets knocked off, and the best friends catch him, and then, of course, let him drop to the floor. They don't like him. And then a few minutes later, both guys get thrown outside, and the best friends grab Cody, and Dustin and QT grab Orange, and then there's like a face-off and a hostage exchange. And they just pass each guy over, so no one gets hurt, and they go back in and keep wrestling. So there's a lot of insanity in the second half. There's a top rope superplex on the outside onto about 20 dudes. Orange runs wild, looks awesome. And then, why did the Dark Order hit the ring and attack Orange Cassidy? Their beef is with Cody. I don't know why.
Dude, I got no clue.
Now, I was also told that somewhere in the ensuing melee, Arn Anderson punched Orange. I never saw it for myself.
I didn't see it either, and Dave said it happened, so I guess it happened.
I will take Excalibur's word for it. I don't believe he would lie to me. And Cody wins with Crossroads. There's a lot of fun action, very hard to follow. I don't know why the Dark Order is attacking Orange Cassidy, and Orange Cassidy, and we talked before about how he got his draw against Cody, so the loss isn't as bad, but man, he has been losing a lot. And then, the weirdest thing of all, that of course, the Battle Royal breaks out after the match, and who was left standing tall in the center of the ring when all is said and done but the Gun Club?
Well, the Gun Club is in a big match next week. And Orange Cassidy is going to have a match with John Silver at the pay-per-view where he will get a dominant win.
Yes, that's true.
And so there you go.
Yeah, and granted, it's better than putting the Gun Club in a big match for no reason, but have they ever been in the ring on Dynamite before? Serious question.
I don't think so.
I don't think they have. It was very odd. Even Cody's on the ramp like, what are they doing there? Is this a commercial break? Do they know what's going on? Alex Marvez tries to interview the best friends. Miro and Kip Sabian interrupt. They say Alan, which is the name of their video game, was very important to them. They have a present. And Penelope is Orange Cassidy for Halloween. Hands them a present. And then they say trick or treat, but it's a trick. And they attack them and beat them up. And Miro screams, "I will never forgive you. Never!" And they unwrap the gift, and it's Alan. And Alan will live on. Serena Deeb versus Layla Hirsch.
This was good.
So all anyone's talked about since this, well, really since it was, I guess it was taped, but really since it happened, Serena Deeb on Tuesday goes out and wins the NWA Women's title, and then comes out here on a show that was taped last week wearing the NWA Women's title, and had may have been a title match, I'm not even sure. But that's something I was talking about, but I am far more intrigued and want to talk about Layla Hirsch. And I know we're running short on time, but she comes out there and, you know, I just watched Halloween Havoc, but I was watching something on the network and saw an ad for Raw and saw 6 tall blonde women who look exactly the same. Layla Hirsch is very, very short. I don't know the exact medical or legal definition of a little person, but she's right on the boundary. She's about as tall as the top rope. And on top of that, for her height, she has a very long torso and short, stubby arms and legs. And then she went out and did a lot of wrestling and powerlifting, so her short arms and legs got really thick, but they look even shorter. A very, very unique-looking person in the pro wrestling world. And that's good. Not all pro wrestlers should look the same. I don't want a bunch of cookie cutters. Then she gets in there with Serena, and she can wrestle, and she can grapple, and she can do stuff. And I'm trying to think of any wrestler I've seen who this person reminds me of, and JR comes up with a great comparison. She's like a new modern-age female Ivan Putski, because Ivan Putski was really, really short and really, really thick. And that's what Layla Hirsch is like. They have a very, very good wrestling match. He's doing all sorts of cool amateur stuff, all sorts of cool grappling, breaks out a German suplex, misses a moonsault, but the moonsault looked cool, and then Serena just hits a couple of suplexes and wins with a tequila sunrise. That was great, and well done, Serena Deeb, but more Layla Hirsch, please. I want to see more of her.
Well, Serena Deeb comes out. Her opponent is legit Layla Hirsch.
Yes, legit Layla Hirsch.
I thought this is going to go 1 minute, and Serena's going to squash her. She just won the NWA title, and we'll move on to the main event here. Penta and Kenny Omega. And instead, they have a match. And, when it was over, I expected, okay, I got to do the Dave show in 30 minutes. I'm going to go online, and I'm going to see Layla Hirsch is All Elite. I didn't.
Not yet.
But I did expect that, she would have been signed immediately after this match. But yes, this was very good.
Alex Marvez interviews Hikaru Shida, tells her Nyla Rose is refusing to wrestle until you give her a title match. So Shida says, I will give her a title match at Full Gear. Okay. I don't even know why this was necessary. They could have just announced the match. Shawn Spears versus VSK. I don't know who this guy is. It doesn't matter. Spears grabs him, hits a DVD, and wins. Mantar is in the crowd throwing candy at Shawn Spears. Spears goes to grab him, but it turns out it's not really Mantar. It's Scorpio Sky in disguise. He hits Spears with a TKO, and that's that.
I like how they do these little simple angles, and then a few minutes later they announced next week it is Shawn Spears versus Scorpio Sky, and they show the graphic of the two guys, and you're like, fuck, that's a big match. And then you realize, wait a second.
Oh, it isn't?
They just shot some goofy angle 10 seconds ago. Yes. But the way that they just do a simple angle and then put the graphics up on the screen, I mean, it makes it feel important. And it's so much better than next week, nothing. And on Wednesday morning, we'll put a match up. Yes. And you're like, oh, okay, wow, great. I'll watch that tonight. This is far superior.
So the card for Full Gear, Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston, I Quit title match. FTR versus the Bucks, where it's the Bucks' last title shot ever if they lose. Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose for the women's title. Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara in Elite Deletion. Cody versus Alan Darby for the TNT title. MJF versus Chris Jericho, where if MJF wins, he's in the inner circle. That's a lot of high-profile matches. And the buy-in match is Orange Cassidy versus John Silver, where, yes, Orange will probably win by a lot. And then next week on Dynamite, Chris Jericho on commentary. Ortiz and Sammy Guevara versus MJF and Wardlow. Miro versus Trent. Shawn Spears versus Scorpio Sky. Cody and the Gun Club versus the Dark Order. And Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston will have a face-to-face meeting. Kenny Omega versus Penta El Zero M in the other semifinal of this tournament. Winner faces Adam Page. That's also the pay-per-view, by the way. So they have a short video where Eddie convinces Phoenix to forfeit because he's injured and Penta can carry on. And Kenny has another super long, obnoxious entrance, which is awesome. And the match begins, and he's wearing a shirt. And he does like a tackle drop down or whatever. But he stops and he pulls up the shirt and he's actually wearing the AAA Mega title. So they're having a fun match. And it's like, it's fun, but it's not like off the charts fun. It's like a good TV main event. And Jim Ross is just openly promoting Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page, even though the match isn't even official yet. And Omega keeps going for the one-winged angel. He can't get it. And there's a point. Penta is up on the top rope. And because it's an empty arena, maybe he does this all a lot, and I've never noticed it before, but he's just wailing in agony as he's selling. But then, whatever Kenny tries, Penta fights him off, and Penta hits a diving Canadian destroyer to the ramp. And that's like, at that moment, a switch gets flipped. And the next 7-8 minutes, whatever it is just awesome. They get back in the ring. Penta does the scariest package pile driver you ever saw in your life. I was certain Kenny's neck was broken. There's a V-trigger out of nowhere. He goes to the one-winged angel again. Pentagon turns the one-winged angel into the Lucha Underground arm snapper. It's just killer. And Kenny finally catches him with one last knee strike, and he hits the one-winged angel. He gets the win. So it is, in fact, Omega versus Page in the pay-per-view. It took a while to get going, but the last half of this match just ruled.
Dude, it was so weird watching this match. So they go to commercial, and they come back, and it's like 9:52 or 9:53. So I got 7 minutes of TV time, and they're off the air. So I watched this last 7 minutes, and I'm watching it, and it's fucking great, and it just keeps going. And in my brain, I'm like, fuck, I guess they got an overrun too, because everyone knew that NXT was going long. So I guess AEW just got an overrun to counter them. So they're going and going and going and going, and near fall and counter, and arm breaker, and counter, and a counter. And then finally, Kenny hits that one-winged angel. He gets the pin, and he's selling his arm. And they're announcing Hangman versus Omega in the finals. And the graphic appears on the screen. And I hit pause. It's 9:59. It was like I was fucking abducted by a UFO. I was like, how did they get 15 minutes of wrestling in 7 minutes? It was the weirdest thing ever. I felt like I had an out-of-body experience or something.
They move very quickly.
But, dude, the last 7 minutes of this match or whatever was so great. And, of course, Omega got the win, and everybody expected Omega and Page in the finals. And unlike WWE, they did not swerve us and have Pentagon beat Kenny Omega and just do some goofy swerve. It's what you expected. It's what you want. It's going to be great. Loved it. Now, with that said, It is time to vote.
It is time to vote, and when I was done with these two shows, I was 100% certain that I was going to vote for NXT. And going back over AEW, there's a lot of very, very good stuff on AEW, and I wavered momentarily, but the more I think about it, the more I realize I just liked NXT more. So I am still going to vote for NXT, but it's closer than I realized.
It is, in fact, okay to vote for NXT. I know some people think that I won't get my paycheck, but reality is when NXT was over, and I watched NXT second last night. I watched AEW first. NXT was over. I had zero, nada, zilch doubt in my mind I was going to vote for NXT tonight. I reviewed AEW. There's a lot of stuff that I really liked on AEW. The main event was great. Opener, I loved the opener. Town hall meeting stuff, great build. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm voting for NXT.
Oh, there you go.
And yes, it's not a 10-8. It's a 10-9.
Yes.
It's a close fight. Both shows were great.
Please give me more TV shows like this. That's all I ask.
Dude, more Wednesdays like this is what I want.
Yeah.
So both of these shows were great, but I am voting for NXT this week. AEW, excellent show. NXT, I mean, they deserve what they got. Excellent show. So that's that, everybody. Next week, I mean, we'll see what they give us the day after the election. I don't know how hard I try, but you got to do something. So there you go.